Hi there guys and girls, and welcome to part 2 of my Mortal Kombat 10 expectations. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I didn't know there was going to be a part 2. Well, the funny thing is, I didn't know there was going to be a part 2. But I sat down and after I put the video up together, and I realised I'd left a whole lot of things out that were pretty, I know it's going to sound funny, but they were pretty high on my list. And I just forgot about them. Because there's so much Mortal Kombat stuff, right? There's like, you know, stuff everywhere, and I'm seeing things, you know, here and there, and it's like, for example, I might be looking at the Deadly Alliance stuff and see something I think would be great in the next Mortal Kombat, and then I think, oh yeah, if I do a video, I've got to put that in, you know. But then when I go to do the video, I might not even think about Deadly Alliance, or I might think about Deadly Alliance, but I might not remember that one thing, and because I didn't note it down, you know. So this isn't another 10. This is just another 5 that I'm adding on. So I think these are pretty big ones, and a lot of people actually said one of these 5 a lot in the comments, and I know it sounds I know it sounds dumb just to forget things. Like it happens with me sometimes. Sometimes my memory's a bit scattered, and you know, if I don't write things down, I sometimes just forget things. So that's why I'm doing part 2, you know, because I wanted these 5 things I think are very strong too. So let's get on with it. So number 5, I think with the success of the Injustice comics done by Tom Taylor, who lives in Melbourne, by the way. He's, you know, he's a local boy. We got some good talent in Melbourne. You got me, you got Mick Gordon doing the Killer Instinct music, and we got Tom Taylor. But Tom Taylor's doing great work with his comics. Sorry, excuse me. Still got that chesty thing going on. I'll be honest, I haven't really read the Injustice comics. I just haven't just sat down, and I've got all the first year except the last 2. I don't have 9 and 10, which is a bit of a bummer actually. I've got to get them and maybe just close off. I'll probably stop buying them. I'm not the biggest comic book fan. I'm not the biggest Injustice fan either. But, you know, seeing the art, and I have, you know, read things here and there online, and he's done a very cool job with the comics, and just seeing the way other people react, I know his work's good. So I think just with the fact that he's done these awesome Injustice comics, I think it's time to bring back the Mortal Kombat comics. Now I don't know, he seems like a busy dude. I don't know if he'd be the guy to do a Mortal Kombat comic book series, but I think someone should. And Mortal Kombat comics were very fun to collect and read back in the day. I did read all the old ones. I used to get the next book and read it, and yeah. But one thing I'll say is, if there is a Mortal Kombat comic book series, I'd like it to be short. Like, for me, like, comic book series that keep going on and on and on, they seem to, I don't know, I reckon I'm not the biggest comic fan. You know, this is just me speaking as not a big comic fan, but I think they lose their impact. Like, if you've got, like, a comic book series that's 20 issues, and that's it, 20 issues done and dusted, I think that's cool, because it's like locked and tight, and it's not like, yeah, what can we do next, and let's extend this, and then if you do that, then you've got a comic book story narrative going, and then you've got a narrative in the games going, and then you go into dangerous territory, because if they're still working on the next game, and then you start making up shit in the comics that's not based on the game because you've already done your game content, and then you want to keep going, then you've got a problem, you know. So I think it's better to just have a small comic book series. I think that would be great for the next Mortal Kombat MKX. For number 4, and this is the comment I saw a lot in the comments, animalities and brutalities. Yes, it is time to bring this shit back. Like in MK3, the animalities were sort of simple. It was sort of like, you know, they'd morph into some sort of glowing sort of creature, like, you know, like a T-Rex. Striker was a T-Rex. Or my favourite sector turned into the bat, and then it just cut their head off, and it would say animality. It was cool. I think if they were gonna do animalities this time, it needs to be disturbing. they need to take a look at footage of animals attacking and how they attack and how they kill their prey, and then they need to they need to put that in the next Mortal Kombat, and that needs to be what an animality is. So they turn into the tiger and they slash them with the claws, or start ripping them, like eating their flesh, pulling the fleshy bits out, like guys screaming, blood's going everywhere. It should be really brutal. It should be like scary brutal. That's how they should do an animality. Now for brutality, I think had a good idea going when they put it in Trilogy. I have to be careful there. Wasn't in Ultimate on arcade. I know it was in Ultimate on SNES, I think. Right. So yeah. So fucking hell. Every time I do a video, train comes. Fucking train. Anyway, yeah. So for brutality, yeah, it needs to be again brutal, like lots of hits, X-ray hits maybe, and just real quick. And it's funny when I was talking about the music, saying where would that fit into Mortal Kombat if they used the Mick Gordon, the dun 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 dun. Where would that fit in after finish him? That sort of music could actually work if they were doing a brutality. So as they're doing a brutality, it's the music's ramping up, dun, 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 and you build your hits, and you build your brutality hits. And it should be like sort of like an ultra combo, I reckon. You do your best Mortal Kombat combo, and then you tag it on the end as your, instead of calling it an ultra, you call it a brutality, and then off it goes. So that was my number four, well, my fourth from these extra 5. So for 3, this one's not a big deal, but I just think it should be because the last Mortal Kombat 9, was 720p when you look on the disc, even though the cover said 1080p. I don't know how they get away with that, but I think the next Mortal Kombat must be 1080p, must be, and it must be 60 frames a second, because the 60 frames thing was fucking awesome. We got 2 new systems. If they can't, you know, I know Killer Instinct runs at I think 900p or something. A lot of people have been making that an issue. It's not a big issue, honestly, but I just think their next gen consoles, the developers should be pushing for 1080p. And it's nothing to do with the console not being able to handle. That's rubbish. I don't believe that for a second. I think it's more that the developers need to push for that 1080p. So that's what I want. That's my 3rd on this list of extra 5. So for number 2, I have Quan Chi's living weapon. Now this was the thing that I mentioned Deadly Alliance before, but I didn't exactly say what I was thinking. When they were developing Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, when they were designing Quan Chi, they designed him with this big staff, and it was called Quan Chi's living weapon. And you can see the pictures here. I'm going to put them up on while I'm talking. And it was like a staff with like a head on the end, and it was like chained to this staff. And Quan Chi, being the weird fucking sorcerer that he is, you know, he was doing an attack where all these fucking bees or flies, or I don't know what they were coming out of this head. This was like this living weapon attack, and it seemed like it's some sort of weapon that had multiple or interesting types of attacks. And I think they didn't put it in Deadly Alliance because they couldn't implement it in there. I would rather see Quan Chi have that than just, you know, what was that teleport, that bullshit teleport move he kept doing in MK9. I fucking hated that move, where he just come down, just get you every time. You have to be really quick to get out of the way. I hated that move. I mean, I know he had an MK4 on that, but he had the slide in MK4 and he had that teleport, but then he had the, you know, where he'd step on. Anyway, I think the living weapon would be fantastic to bring this into MK9. It would be something that they looked at doing in the past. We didn't do it. And something they could bring into this, and it would be friggin' awesome. Because it looks, I remember seeing those concept artwork pictures when Deadly Alliance was coming out and being really excited about that. And they're like, we couldn't put it in the game. And I was like, oh, fuck. So, Quan Chi's living weapon. So the last thing I've got on my extra 5 list is, and I can't believe I forgot this, I even said it when MK9 was coming out. I said it to Ed Boon, man. Dual announcers. With the last MK9, we had a new announcer. Now, a lot of people, some people thought that he didn't have much of an impact. I did think his voice was lacking a bit of the aggression of the past announcers. So if I was going to talk about the past announcers, I think Ed Boon had was probably, and I've said this is really hard. Ed Boon's probably the best tournament style announcer, and by that I mean in MK1 it was all about the tournament, and in MK2 it was Shao Kahn was now the announcer, and he was perfectly played by Steve Ritchie. So for me, I can't say which announcer's better because they were both perfectly suited. And then in MK3 we had Steve Ritchie again. In MK4 I think that's when it became Herman Sanchez. And he had a menacing sound. Flawless victory. He had sort of a menacing sound like that. Whereas like Mortal Kombat 1 was a little more like a finish him. It was like a more like aggressive sort of like to the point. And Steve Ritchie was more like a, you know, finish him. Like I know that there probably isn't a big difference sounding in there. It's just that he had a more outworldly sounding voice. For me, Ed Boon saying finish him was like finish him, like quick and aggressive, and Shao Kahn was the same, but it had more of an outworldly sort of deep, menacing tone. I would like to see in this Mortal Kombat, if you're going to use that same announcer from the last game, that was cool. He was alright. It wasn't too bad. But I would like to see Ed Boon come back. And I said it to Ed. I said, that would be cool. And he said, hey, that's a good idea, you know. And, I mean, they didn't do it in MK9. They probably ran out of time and such. But they did it in Killer Instinct. And I couldn't believe that because I thought MK might be the first to do that. And even I said it in my interview. And then Killer Instinct came out and they had the original announcer and this new announcer. And they're both very good. And I think that's cool. That was the first thing I unlocked, actually. I think it was the first big thing I unlocked. And, yeah, so I really like being able to choose the announcers. I think that would be cool for MK10 if we had, like, Ed Boon, unlockable announcers would be so cool. Imagine, and this is my dream, right? This would be friggin' awesome. Imagine 4 announcers. Ed Boon, Steve Ritchie, Herman Sanchez, and the new guy. 4 announcers to unlock. That would be like crazy amazing, you know. I know like they probably won't be. Warner Brothers might not be keen on it because like, or NetherRealm. I'm not sure. Because the problem is when they're working in the initial game, yeah, they can get Steve Ritchie to come in and Ed Boon and like let's say all the character names and Jarek and Kai and they say all the names done. Finish it off, done, right? And then like the game ships and then they're like let's do DLC, and then to get those 4 guys back might not be worth it for them to fly in a guy for him to say Jarek or Reen or Goro, you know. It might not be worth it. So yeah, so that's where a problem might lie. I don't know, but you'd think with internet, like, and I know this is going to sound real hammy, right? But you'd think with internet there'd be a way to record sound. Like I know recording booth, obviously, right? Recording booth, perfect, soundproofing walls and perfect mixing panels. And I'm just putting it out there, right? Just bear with me, guys. There must be a way to at least have a decent way to record a sample. Do you know what I mean? Like, so even if they couldn't get the guy back in the studio, if he just said, just load up, whatever program and, Kai wins, and then they send the WAV file. Like, for me, you could almost get away with that, I think. You really could, with the way you can treat audio these days. Either that, or they need to know what DLC they want to do, or even just list all the characters that are possible DLC and get them to say every name on that list. And then even if only 4 other characters come out, they just use those 4 samples. And I think that would be really cool. I think that would be super sweet. And yeah, I wanted to add those 5 because I think they were very strong, and I don't know how the fuck I forgot them in the first video. And I was editing the video, and then I just realized I forgot all, especially the Quan Chi's living weapon thing. For me, that was like really big. I mean, I know I put it in 2, but I think dual announcers would be, I'd get a kick out of that a lot more. But yeah, definitely the Quan Chi's living weapon and dual announcers, very hot, very big for me. So yeah, thanks for watching. I know none of you are probably expecting a follow-up to this. I wasn't expecting a follow-up to this. So it's been fun. But yeah, I wanted to get those out there, and I'll see you guys next time for another TMK video. Please subscribe.